Thank you, guys. Thank you. Applause fills a hole in my heart that nothing else ever will. Thank you for feeding my addiction. Okay, first quick question for everybody. How many people manage a team? Okay, how many people manage a team, but it's only AIs? Why are there not more hands up? Ridiculous. All of you are managing teams of AIs right now. You just don't know it. Or maybe you're neglecting your team of AIs. Maybe your team of AI has been asking for feedback for months and you've said nothing. Shame. Okay, so let's talk about why I think that's important. We have a policy at Shopify that before you ask for more headcount or resources, teams must demonstrate why they cannot get what they want done using AI. The first assumption is that AI can do the job of the person you want to hire. And then it's up to you. You've got the burden of proof to prove that it can't be done by an AI. And what we found is we've gone through this a lot over the last few years. Most of the jobs that we wanted to hire for can be done very well by AIs. So what I want to do in this session is I want to talk to you guys about why I think that's both true and positive, and then I want to inspire you all to build something with AI. If not today, then next week. Okay, first of all, let me kind of get a survey of familiarity with AI. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask everybody to raise your hand, and then I'm going to have you lower it when I say something that you haven't done. Okay, so everybody hands up, all hands? Get those hands up in the air, nice, love that. Okay, how many people have not used ChatGPT? Or how many people have used ChatGPT? If you haven't, lower your hand. How many people have used image generation in ChatGPT? How many people have used AI to write a computer program? How many people have used AI to brainstorm? Oh, that was nice. Okay, how many people have used AI to build an application? Okay, great, perfect. This is great. You're just the right audience. You're the audience I was dreaming of. When I told my wife what level of familiarity I wanted, this was exactly it. So thank you all for being perfect. Okay, first thing, whenever I talk about my job, which is to create human AI centaurs that can do the strengths of AIs with the strengths of humans and put them together to do amazing things. Whenever I tell people this, they say, Dave, why do you hate workers so much? There are many reasons. But that's not why I actually do my job. I don't believe that we automate jobs. I believe we automate tasks. Let's talk about that. What I'm putting up on the screen here is data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics showing how many people per 100,000 citizens in the United States had different job types. Accountants in 1978 were 440 people out of 100,000. Travel agents were 8. Now we're going to play a game. How many people think that in 2023 there were more accountants per capita? How many people think there were less? Okay, great. Those of you who think less are not alone. There's a great story by the guy who created VisiCalc. When he first pitched it to a group of people, there was an accountant in the room, and one guy started trembling and shaking. He said, "What's wrong?" He said, "This is everything I do." So the first spreadsheets terrified an accountant because he thought, everything I do is adding columns of numbers, and I'm going to lose my job. Okay, let's play the same game for travel agents. How many people believe that there are more travel agents per capita today than there were in 2003? How many people believe yes? Sorry, how many people believe fewer? You're all wrong. Why are you wrong? Well, if the job of accountant was static, if it was adding columns of numbers, then yes, you would be correct. Excel does that far better. But that's not what the job of an accountant is anymore. We invented a new tool, and it unlocked lots of capabilities of what accountants do. How many people are accountants? Anybody here? Okay. Do you need to be good at arithmetic to be an accountant? No, that's not the job anymore. Same with travel agents. Travel agents used to be people who knew how to call airlines and book tickets. That's not what they do anymore. The tools changed what we can do. That's the goal of AI. We still have an infinite number of things that need doing. We can just do them better because we have better tools. Okay, and this is why, this is the pattern though. It wasn't instantaneous. There was a period when there were fewer accountants. There was a period when there were a lot more travel agents. But over time, we're able to find ways to use these tools to do different things, and these occupations still have a lot of value to add. They just do it in different ways with new tools. All right. Okay. Here's screenshots, because some people don't believe me. It's real. All right, every tool allows you to either do more or do less. There's a great story of an economist touring China in the 1970s. And there's a massive group of people who are building it using shovels. And he asks his tour guide, and he says, hey, well, why aren't you using backhoes or heavy machinery to build the dam? And his tour guide says, oh, you Americans, you're just about building the dam. I'm creating thousands of jobs for people. And the economist says, oh, I didn't realize you were trying to make jobs. If you wanted to make jobs and not a dam, you should have given them spoons. It's an older joke. But it's true. But the thing you need to remember is our job is to make dams, not jobs. There are many things that each of your companies require you to do. There are many things that your coworkers are depending on you to do, and very few of you are managing teams of AI to do it. And you can do a lot more with them. So use the heavy machinery, use the AI, and do more stuff. Okay, so now we're going to talk through some of the tools that I think you should be using, and then we're going to have a choose your own adventure moment where there's 2 ways this presentation can go, and we'll decide which one is more fun. I just realized my timer is still at 45 minutes. Is time traveling that slowly? Okay, well, we got a lot done, guys. That was quick. Okay, so let's talk about some of the tools that I think are important. ChatGPT, Gemini Studio, Copilot, Anthropic, Claude. You guys already know all these, right? It's a wonderful interface. You've got a search box, you say things to it, it says things back, and with that, you're able to achieve lots of interesting and varied things. Here is an example. I asked it what are things that I do with it, because I wanted to share a very personal moment. I like sharing my journal with you guys. These are the things that I do with ChatGPT. A lot of it's coding, a lot of it's research, and then way down at the bottom is a lot of parenting and education support. Yeah, I should probably get that number higher. But there's lots of different models you can use for it. I think, are you guys all familiar with model types? Does anyone need, okay, everyone knows some of them are slow, some of them are not, some of them hallucinate a lot, some of them don't. Okay. So what is it good for? Quick, general purpose stuff. I think you should be constantly popping in and out of this thing. If you've got an iPhone and you've got that action button on the top, I strongly recommend setting that to ChatGPT. It makes me use it a lot more. The Siri integration is terrible. It's very good at this range of things, and one thing that helps when using it is give it a role. If you need it to be a therapist, let it be a therapist. If you need it to be a Python developer, tell it to be a Python developer. All right, other things that are useful. APIs. APIs are how you use that chat box at massive scale, and I think it's one of the most powerful tools that you can use in any of your jobs. No matter what your job is, if you can use the API to do things, then you will be able to get a lot done. The metaphor I use for it is imagine that the LLM is your capacity to access an infinite army of highly skilled interns. So if you had access to infinite interns, think of the kind of task you would give them and the kind of work that you would have them go through. You might have them look through every single email we've gotten in the last year. You might have them analyze every 401k document in every company we're considering investing in. And you can make these procedural things that go through massive amounts of data and give you a little summary out of it, and then take all of those and collapse into something useful. All right, there's lots of different models. They all cost different amounts. They're not that expensive. One of the things that bothers me is that when I talk to people about AI, they say, well, Dave, isn't AI so expensive? It's so much more expensive than a Google search. And I say, have you ever worked with a human? Those people are so expensive. It's not even close. You have to really try. Really, really try to spend more on an LLM than on an unpaid intern who gets free lunches. You've got to really focus to be able to spend that much on an LLM, even the really expensive models. My boss has a good recommendation for which model to choose. She says, I choose my models the way I choose my clothes. I choose what mostly looks good, and then if I'm not sure which one, I choose the more expensive one because it probably looks better. That's same here. Use the most expensive model because you're not going to be using it enough to matter. Okay, and the other thing to call out is, did you guys know there's a batch mode? There's a batch mode in OpenAI. It's half the price. So if you're willing to wait a little bit, you just call it in a different way and you pay half as much. And you get all that extra money to spend on intern lunches. Okay, things it's really good at is doing the same task over and over again. We're going to go through a demo of this in a little bit. And I'll walk you through a flow chart for how to use it productively. Okay. Another thing that's really important, Cursor, GitHub Copilot, and Aider. Who's used any of these? They're amazing, right? It's my favorite way to interact with AI. Like, it is so powerful, the kinds of things you can do. I feel like I've got a team of very responsive, very diligent, capable developers who work for me 24/7. And they, like, a standard feedback loop that I have with my human developers is I go to them and I say, hey, Yingzi, I really want this done in this way. Can you come back to me with something? And then she works, and she works hard, and she's a smart person. She comes back the next day and says, is this right? And then I say, well, almost. I like this. I don't like this, and I give feedback. With an LLM like Cursor, or an LLM integration like Cursor, I can give almost instantaneous feedback. It's like 30 seconds, a minute between iterations, and that means that I can essentially do a month of work with the human developer in 30 minutes. So that's really, really powerful. It's also, right now, kind of a steal. Like, do you guys remember the early days of Uber when the rides were subsidized? And you thought, wow, I don't need to go anywhere, but sure, it'd be nice to go for a ride. These are kind of that for LLMs right now. Cursor charges $20 a month for unlimited access to a fair number of very expensive models. And I am abusing that. So you better get on it soon, because eventually they're going to realize how much money they're losing on me. All right, making applications. A pro tip. This is something that really changed my relationship to Cursor. It loses track of things. As you know, LLMs have context windows. They can only see a certain amount of things at a time. It's probably more than you're thinking, but it's very easy for them to be distracted. So something that I find very useful is whenever you start a project, do the same thing you do with a human. You say, here's the thing we want to do, and here's a rough skeleton of how I think we'll do it. Come back to me with more detail. And then it comes back to you and it says, hey, Dave, here's a README that describes the goals of the project, and here's a detailed punch list of things we need to do, a to-do list. And then you say, great, do it. And then it goes through, and it tries to do some stuff, and it checks off boxes as it goes, so it always knows where it's at in the process, and you can sign off on different stages of development. Like, it really has, like, I've gotten to the point now where if I write a really good README and a good to-do list, I can say, I'm going to bed now, I want this done in the morning. And it's pretty close to done in the morning. Like I did this project for my kids, which is just like a fun project where they wanted to be quizzed on a book they'd read. So I built a quiz machine, and it was supposed to like do certain things when you clicked on the website where it asked the questions, and it wasn't working. And I wasn't sure how to fix it. And I was like, can you just fix this in the morning? In the morning, I came back, and it had developed a Selenium solution where it had loaded the website, taken screenshots, fed them back into the LLM to be able to debug what was going wrong in the UX. That was awesome. It cost me $0. Yeah, anyway, amazing stuff. Okay. Here's the choose your own adventure moment, because I think we're just coming up on 30 minutes. So how many people are loving this linear presentation and want us to just keep going down this path? Or if you want to do a live demo where one of you comes up on stage and we build something for your company right now, how many people want that? So how many people want to turn to page 23 where we continue this very fun, hilarious adventure? And how many people want to do the live demo? Okay, who wants to come up on stage? Hey, you're the front row. Come on up here. Big round of applause. Woo! Okay, tell me your name.
Logan.
Logan, nice to meet you, Logan. I'm Dave. What is your company?
HLO Lighting.
HLO Lighting. Can you tell me a bit about, hey, can I get a mic? I'm so sorry. I should have thought of this. Okay, HLO Lighting, and tell me a little bit about what HLO Lighting does. Hang on one second, let me start recording. Now stand over here and tell me a bit about what HLO Lighting does.
Okay, HLO Lighting is we're a company that sources Christmas lights. We sell on Amazon, we sell to other companies that put lights on houses. So we're not out putting lights on houses, but we're selling to companies that are homeowners, companies, event companies, and that sort of thing.
Awesome, cool. Thank you for walking me through a little bit about what HLO Lighting does. Now I'll stop recording. And what we're going to do now, okay, so now we're going to build a product for something your team does. So immediately things come to mind, like what if we built like a customer service rep, where you get emails back from people, and then we have the LLM write the first draft? Because, okay, let me ask this. Yeah, so I feel like a lot of companies, similar to HLO Lighting, have some kind of customer service feedback loop, where people complain about stuff, and then there's an employee handbook, and a human knows the employee handbook, and they're able to answer questions to be able to say, oh, the light's not turning on. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Oh, the lights haven't arrived yet. What's my shipping time? And all those kinds of things, right? Is that a normal thing?
A lot of that, and people ask for ideas on how to use lights.
Ooh, ideas how to use lights. That could be a fun one.
So troubleshooting, use case, that type of thing is our biggest.
All right, what should we do? Customer service or the
Customer
ideas?
service.
Oh, the ideas one is also a good one. I like that.
Let's go with customer service.
Okay, let's try customer service. Okay. It is our task to build a customer service email bot for my good friend Logan for his company, period. New paragraph. I want you to construct a README describing the goals of this project and a to-do list that will help us walk through it, period. New paragraph. My basic idea is that we should start by generating some synthetic data to see if we're doing this right. New paragraph. Perhaps we can write 5 complaining emails that the customer service reps might receive. New paragraph. And then we can write an employee handbook for how to address different concerns. New paragraph. And then we can write an LLM-based agent that can respond to emails being fed the employee handbook and create a UX that will help us debug if the system is working appropriately. Thank you for being quiet while Siri was listening. Did anybody have any suggestions, anything we've missed before we start? Logan, any thoughts?
That sounds great.
Okay, let's see what happens. I also just realized my OpenAI key is very publicly displayed on something that's being recorded. Well, it looks like someone's going to reset his keys tonight. Please don't steal this before I can refresh. Thank you. I know we're all good friends, so. That was great, okay. Sometimes it needs encouragement. Okay, so what we've done, let's see what we've got. So we've got our README now, and we're describing the synthetic data problem, the LLM powering, okay, sure. We've got our plan for how to do it. Let's get started. Okay. So now it's thinking, it's making some complaints, emails. And you can see right here what it's actually doing. So you can see which files it's iterating on. Generally about like 30 seconds between each iteration.
Is this what you use most of the time?
This is most of what I use, yeah. This exact workflow that I'm doing right now is one that I did last week to build a program that uses Slack channel information to be able to write your status updates for your projects each week. So it looks at what's going on in Slack, what's going on in GitHub, and then at the end of each week it says, here's the things Dave's teams did, I sign off on it, and then it publishes. Only now it does that for all of Shopify. Okay, so now we've got some stuff back. Let's take a look at our complaint emails. Okay, it looks like they're not broken down into different files. I probably want these as separate files, so let's say that. Let's split the complaint emails into separate documents so that we can analyze them one by one and put them in a separate folder. Okay. Now while that's going, let's start thinking about what else we want to do. We need an employee handbook, right? Let's write an employee handbook markdown file that we can also put in this reference material folder so that we know what to pass to the LLM. Oops, did I cut it off too soon? Sorry. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm going back to the previous checkpoint because I shut it off too soon, because I'm very excited to be in front of all of you. Okay, so it's doing it, it's making the folder, and now it's going to populate them in here with the individual files. I guess I can point out some other things while this is running. So there's different modes inside of these things. Like in ask mode, it's really just acting like a chatbot where it just says things and you can copy paste at will. In agent mode is where it gets really cool, where it can start generating things and you can give it unit tests and say write code until you pass this test. Like agent is a really powerful way to do these things that I've really been delighted by. At the end of each step, at the end of each thing that it does, it'll say, do you want to accept these changes or revise them? Really skilled developers think they know more than the AI, and they'll go in and revise things. I'm not one of them. So I mostly accept it and then evaluate it by the quality of the output. Okay, so now we've got our files. Now we can ask our next question about making the employee handbook. Okay, and now we can get started on the next thing. And I'm trying to think. Logan, is there anything else I should be thinking about or any feedback you'd give the tool before I because I just realized you've been standing here for like 5 minutes.
You're all right. With customer service, I think just answering their questions is the primary point.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else.
Are there any particular questions we should make sure our email chatbot or email response bot can do?
A lot of questions we get are concerning specs and when can they use product X or when can they use product Y, and trying to explain different voltages and how to use certain products. sometimes it's problem or like trying to figure out what is going wrong, and half the time it's they don't know what to use, and so we're trying to help them figure out how to solve their problem.
Nice. Okay, I like it. So we'll work with that. I'm going to let you sit in your chair.
Okay.
Keep the mic, though, because I think we're going to have follow-up questions for you, but I just felt bad having you stand there while it runs. Okay, so now we're running. We're giving these extra updates, and now we need to start building a system to answer them, right? So this is where it really comes down to knowing what you want. Like a lot of times people will come back to me and say, hey, Dave, I asked the AI to do something for me, and it didn't do it. Like, AI sucks. And I say, well, how did you ask? And they said, well, I told it to do it. And I said, if you'd given those instructions to, if someone gave you those instructions, could you have done it? And a lot of times they can't. You know, like the instructions, a lot of times when a manager is really bad, they say, my employees never listen, they don't do what I say. And then if you look at how they're talking to their employees, you can see, well, you're explaining it poorly. The same is true of AIs. So always look inward first and say, is it me? Am I the problem? Do I need to explain this better? Okay, so let's keep moving. Now it's time to start labeling. Let's make a prompt with Jinja, which is a library that makes prompting very easy, to take in the handbook and an email and return a reply that is appropriate, that is following the employee handbook. Assume I have an I guess you've already seen the token. Assume I have an OpenAI key that everyone has seen. Okay, great. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're going to build out this prompt. So a prompt is just what you type into ChatGPT, things you say, but it's got little bracketed statements where you can plug in different things. So if you're plugging in emails, you've got a bracketed thing, variable that says plug in the email. You've got a bracketed thing saying plug in the handbook, and now use these two pieces of information to make a third thing, which is the output email. Okay, so let's see what we got out of that. We got a prompt. Okay, it wants to know where the files are, so I'm going to add these to the chat. Here's an example email. There are 5. And I'm intentionally misspelling so that you know how smart the AI is. That seemed believed. All right, so now we're making an email agent script that will demonstrate what we're doing. Okay, great. So we've got our template. Let's take a look at our prompt. So now we've got this thing. Oh, it's very simple. It just says, here's the handbook, here's the email, write a reply. Looks good? Okay, and now we're updating our checklist. Did you see that? So as it's going through, it's saying, oh, good, we did another one of the things. Let's mark that off on our to-do list. Okay, let's do a test run. Okay, now here is where things get really exciting or really boring, depending on what you're into. Because a lot of times this stuff doesn't work first try. So you have to go and like copy paste things. All right, hang on, it worked. Wow, okay, great. So, okay, it's not actually doing the real thing though. It's just, it did a dummy version to test it. So let's try doing the real thing. So now it's going to run the real thing. We're going to try to actually hit a real LLM and get back a real response, and then we'll read it and see if we like it, and then we can start building the UX that will let us do testing of it. Okay, great. Looks like it's going to install some stuff. Okay. Now I'm going to wait patiently and not hit run until I'm confident we've got the thing. Okay, now it's running. It's attempting to get the LLM reply. Great, okay, here we go, we got an answer. And it's mirroring my enthusiasm. Love that. Okay, so let's look at what we got back and let's see if we like it. Okay, so we have an email. You know what, I'm gonna make sure that let's save the output in a folder so I can review the end emails and the complaints to check for realism. Okay, So now I'm just following the same feedback loop. I'm saying do something, look to see if it's been done, and then if I like it, I keep moving, and if not, I go roll back a step and correct things. Okay. So now we can do that. Great. Let's run on all 5 and make the Streamlit app. Okay. So now we can run this guy on all 5. Okay, great. We got replies. Here's email 1. Let's first of all see what Karen said. Did it really call it Karen? It did. It named it Karen. Wow. Let's talk about bias in AI for just a moment. Okay, now, all right. So Karen's got a thing to say. It seems that Karen is disappointed in a recent order. I am so sorry, Logan. Looks like the Everglow Christmas lights are not doing what she wanted. It's completely unacceptable. She tested all 3 stands, and none of them are even working. And when she even attached photos, ouch. Okay, well, let's see what our sweet AI had to say to this. Thank you so much for reaching out. We're so sorry that this didn't work out. We understand the urgency, so it acknowledged the concerns. It took responsibility, and then it's explaining the handbook. This is so great. Okay, let's give some feedback. Is anyone in customer service who knows what they did wrong? Okay. Great try. I have a few notes. It seems that our prompt is regurgitating the handbook. Let's revise our prompt to make it clear that these emails are meant to be read by the human who wants to feel that they've been understood. I love that we're listening to their complaints and we're understanding what they're worried about, but when we spell out what we're doing, it makes us feel like a robocall, period. Be more sincere and honest. Let's assign a role to the LLM where we explain it as a senior customer service representative. For my money, the weakest part of AI right now is Siri, the voice recognition of Siri. That's where most of my problems come from. Everything else is working great. Okay, but right now, we're going to try to revise this. We're going to see if we can get a better draft, and then we can build our UX. Okay. Great. Okay. So other things I wanted to talk about while this is running. A big part of being successful with an AI is being able to set this feedback loop, being able to say, this is good, this is bad. And when you get bad, you make revisions and you keep going, just like you would with any team. If you can have a high-speed flywheel, you're able to make things better very quickly. The nice thing is this is very fast. If you wrote this handbook and then you saw this email from one of your employees, you'd have to schedule a meeting with them, you'd have to send a Slack, you have to find some way to share that feedback with us. It's instantaneous. Okay, great. Let's run on all 5. While it's running, make the Streamlit app. Okay, awesome.
What is the Streamlit app?
Oh, Streamlit is my favorite way of making a web. The question is, what is the Streamlit app? Streamlit is an open source website that makes making websites in Python super easy. So it's my favorite way of spinning up a UX very quickly. So if you're doing local testing or if you want to host on your internal server, you can build something in Streamlit and you can have interactive websites that can do things like database management or show different applications or even in runtime do different analyses in Python very, very quickly and easily. Okay, great. Oh, it's already written. Okay, there we go, great. Okay, so now we've got a website. Isn't that nice? Do you guys remember making websites? Remember when I got married, the first thing I did is I was going to make a wedding page for me and my wife, but it was way too expensive to buy a template. So I went to somebody else's website who was getting married, and I hit F12. And then I went in and I modified it to be me and my spouse's name, and then I hosted it on GeoCities. Now it's instantaneous. I don't even need to steal. Okay, so here we go. So now we can go through, and we can see these different responses. I don't love the way this is organized, though, because you guys, look at this. No word wrapping. Let's give that feedback. I think you impressed everybody with the Streamlit app, period. But I wish there was word wrapping around everything. It's kind of hard to read. While that's running, we can look for other feedback. So we can see all the emails here. Ooh, this is nice. Look at this. I can go into each individual email. We can see the incorrect item. Yeah, right? Not bad. So then what I'd want to do is like, OK, here's a good one. This is interesting. So this is the incorrect item. One of the things that's really neat about these services, and I won't do this one now because it's out of scope what I can do in 30 minutes, but there's something called MCPs. How many people have heard of Model Context Protocol? It's freaking awesome. And I don't use that word lightly. So what this is this is kind of the new open interface across all LLMs. Like, it was invented by Anthropic, but it's been adopted by OpenAI, and just yesterday, Microsoft said that they're going to support it in all their infrastructure. So now we just need Amazon and Google, and we've got a whole new HTML. What it does is it gives LLMs a way to say, here's a tool. Like, the biggest problems with LLMs is that they lie, period, right? And they're out of date. You know, they often have, like, they're trained on old data. MCPs solve both of these problems very well. Because, for instance, say somebody complained about their order. So I got an order number here. If I make an MCP at HLO Lighting that allows me to go take this order number and put it into the inventory and see exactly what they ordered, then you can pass that information as part of the context to the LLM. You can say, I've looked up your order, and I can see you actually that our cart shows that you had this product in your cart when you checked out. Or, oh my goodness, we're so sorry. We see that you actually ordered product 123, and we sent you 125. Sorry. So you can actually bring in that context and that information, which is really, really powerful. OK, great. Any questions while I'm letting it fix the word wrapping? I guess other things you need to do to be able to do this is I think it's very valuable to have humans in the, oh, wait, there's a question. Where's my runner? Now is your time, Brittany.
What is this application?
What is this application?
I might have not heard, but what exactly is this like?
This is Cursor. But
Okay.
the good news is Cursor is not like a company I hold stock in. It's just a interface for doing this. There are many competitors.
It's just an interface, and you're using other AI tools.
That's right.
within
So
this.
down here, you're seeing which AIs I'm talking to. So you can talk to any of these AIs.
And those are downloaded.
Yeah,
the
one, they're not.
applications you have.
Yeah, but they're not like
connected.
they're not like local. It's just this server is calling out to the big AI companies and with my API key, and saying I'm going to go. Actually, not even this one. They're just using their own API key for these ones, and saying, hey, Google, I've got someone who wants to answer this question. Here's the question they're asking. Let me get the output, and then it takes that output and puts it into this code repo here. So it's building this application for me on this side of the screen, and it's talking to the AIs on this side of the screen.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Great question. Any other questions? Hey, Logan, pass that mic. Oh, no, Logan can answer, then pass that mic.
No, you got it.
So this is all very cool, and I'm sitting here feeling very overwhelmed because there's so much potential here. How do you develop this kind of workflow? Because you're chaining together a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I find that when I ask AI, it doesn't do a very good job saying, here's how you would go about using all these things together to solve this task. It kind of outlines it at a high level, but it doesn't say, go here, do this.
Okay.
But ideating this is, I think, the most difficult part.
Yeah, no, great question. And first of all, I'm very sorry. My goal was to make you feel whelmed, and I'm really sorry I went too far. Like, I am very sorry. That's on me. But the question's very good. And so the idea is, how do we take these little modules of useful output and then string them together to make big, useful things, right? Because the AI is very, very good at doing a 20-minute demo in front of a room of friends. But to be able to make it connect together to do bigger things, it can get confused. Like if you tried to use an LLM to recreate Google, it would probably do a poor job. But what you can do is the same thing you do with any team. If you were to give a team of developers the task of recreating Google, they would also get confused and overwhelmed. Break things down into small tasks, create clear handshakes between different parts of the organization or the code repo, and then iterate within each one until it's meeting its spec. Like, I think, has anyone ever heard of test-driven development? It was like a big way of doing software development in the 90s. It's back. Because with LLMs, you can say, your job is to create this email handoff that takes as an input this, as an output this, and your job is just to do that right. Give me the API where other services can call that. And then you can build that self-contained tidy unit that fits well into the LLM area of focused work. And then you can build a separate one that has a different job, like the one that brings a human into the mix. Like your job is to take the output from this LLM, take a customer service email from a human, generate an automated output, and then give it to a real human customer service rep and have them validate or confirm or correct it. So does that answer the question? Did we get back down into whelmed? No. Sorry. Okay. Well, we can follow up. Logan, you had a question as well, though?
Yeah, I've got two, but we'll start with one. Let's say you get this working as intended. How do you actually use it at the end?
Yeah.
Apply it to your Gmail or...
Yeah. So it depends on what your email services are. So if you're using something like a Google Cloud Platform email solution, there are ways you can just pass the tokens. It's all about authentication. And authentication is a pretty solved problem. So if you talk to the LLM about what system you're using and how you can authenticate, if you can do it as yourself, then you can get the AI system to do it for you. You just need to be able to have the right keys, the right handshakes to be able to get these systems talking to each other. It's a lot easier than it sounds, and with the LLM to help you, it's magical. Like this morning, I was trying to get logs off of a MongoDB server from someone else at Shopify, and I knew very little about his server. I know nothing about MongoDB, but I do know what ChatGPT is. So I was able to get everything because I was able to ask questions consistently and carefully. So it's the same thing with like a lot of these hard problems. Like how do I actually tie this into my workflow for emails? You're going to need to ask the AI how to do this. But what it's really going to be is there's some email server you have. It writes down emails as they come in. You're going to need to have a service that looks to see when those emails come in. And then you're going to want to pass these things over to the LLM system, which will do its piece. And then it will pass them back into a different system that will either be looked at by humans or just emailed out. Great question, Logan. Any other questions?
So, wow, that's loud. Our products are FDA regulated, so we have to be very prescriptive on some of the things that we say back. And one of the issues, we tested like Gorgeous's AI, and it hallucinated a ton.
Yeah.
Will MCP help drive that? So I've been doing like an N8N workflow where I basically just, each step that I want to check to make sure like we don't have that, like it would be a human, building a different node and saying, does it pass this? Yes, then go on. But obviously, if we could just upload a document that says check for all these things, that'd be way better.
Yeah. So MCP, well, depending on the length of the guidelines you have that you need to not hallucinate against, you might not even need that. You might be able to just create checking loops. Like one of the things that I've found is that hallucinations are random events, which means that if you generate something once and it has a hallucination, you might not be able to detect it. But if you generated it 10 times, and you saw that one time you said the weird thing, you could detect it. A good rule of thumb for hallucination reduction is just run the thing and then have a very slow system go and evaluate it. Like we had this problem, remember that bot I talked about that does the project summaries? Hallucinated a lot. Like literally 30% of the things it said were hallucinations in the first draft. So what we did is we built a tool that took the email update, the status update, and then extracted every assertion about what was true. And then we took each of those assertions and we said, here's all the grounding context you had. Can you justify this with this? And if not, throw it away. With LLMs, you can generally bring hallucinations pretty close to zero. You can bring them to zero if you're willing to do slower and more careful processes. The first draft is going to have these problems, but you should be able to create feedback loops, especially for something that's as low frequency as a customer email, where you can set up the system to make it go to zero. I think MCP can help, but the thing that I found that works without setting up an MCP is just having the feedback loops. And I also, I rarely let the same model check its own work. So you alternate between different models. Like I'll generate a bunch of things in O3, and then I'll let O1 Pro audit it. I'll generate a bunch of things in Gemini 2.5, and then I'll let Sonnet 3.5 audit it. Great question, hallucinations. Okay, anybody else?
You mentioned that the LLMs and as you build this, it works better when you give it good, positive and kind of negative feedback, saying, hey, this worked and this didn't work. I've used systems like Replit or Lovable to do something and build different applications. But usually I'm just giving it negative feedback, like, hey, I got this error. I tried to do this. It didn't work. Yeah. How important is the positive feedback? Do you ever give it positive feedback?
How important? I guess the positive feedback, I think, in the most informative sense, is a test. If X, then Y. When you generate Y, that's positive feedback. But it's not. But I don't. I was about to say I don't like give it praise, then I realized I do, like all the time. And I probably shouldn't. I don't think that adds any value, but I think it makes me a better person. I think it improves like my gratitude towards the universe, but I think it actually isn't improving the system. But a lot of times what I'll do is like I'll say, something goes through and it works, and I say, great job, exclamation point, and now do this. So I don't think I'm wasting a lot of tokens, but I don't think there's any value in me saying that great job. But no, I take it back. There's value here. Okay, thank you. Great question. Does anybody else have any questions? If not, I think we've got like our email chat bot working. Okay, over here.
So on this, would it be easier to use like a Jace AI essentially to just train it on, because like we took their handbook, then from there it has that set information to just go off of instead of the whole open source?
Great question. Yeah, so should we fine tune this model to be able to be targeted to the work that we're doing?
Yeah, by like using something like that.
Yeah, no, great question. My answer is almost always no. I find that most models that get fine-tuned, when you take the big frontier model and then you fine-tune it, it gets worse. It gets much cheaper. So depending on the task you're doing, like if you're doing a task that's going to need to be done billions of times, then yes, fine-tune and customize. But most people think they're making things better when they're fine-tuning, but they're actually just overfitting to a very narrow training set. So you start calling people Karen when they're not Karen because they're overrepresented in your training set. So you need to be, so I actually, for any amount of work that's below like $1 million a day, I strongly recommend stick with the frontier model, stick with the biggest model you can, and then just use prompt engineering or feature engineering to be able to get the best outcomes. But fine-tuning occasionally makes sense, but in my experience, your mileage may vary, if you're not doing something in the terms of billions, do not fine-tune and do not use a smaller model. Okay, great questions. Okay, does anybody else have a question? Brittany, I need you. Yeah, those shoes are paying off.
Shopify is a pretty big company, and
Thank you.
One of the this example kind of raises a question about how are you fine-tuning a model that is then educated across all Shopify users, or do you isolate? How do you solve those problems?
I'm not fine-tuning at all. Like I think fine-tuning is something that might make sense at the scale of a Google, but I think it is not a good idea for most of the use cases I'm describing. Once again, there are exceptions, but for most of the like productivity enhancing things I'm suggesting that most of your companies need, I don't think fine-tuning is a good idea, and it also just introduces all sorts of problems with data regulation and compliances.
Yeah, so your instance of let's say ChatGPT is not influencing other people's usage.
No, it's all locked in. Yeah, so we have our own like private instance, well not instance, our own private key to ChatGPT where we are querying all these different models with our API key, just like I'm doing here, but it's not being fed back into the training data because that's what you get with the enterprise license. We're not tuning our own things. Like I think for almost all the projects you guys want to do, like just pass in better data and ask the question more clearly. Don't spend time fine tuning. The problem is there's like engineers on your teams who really like fine tuning. And they're dumb, and I'm mad at them. So don't give in to them just because they want to do cool stuff that makes their CVs look better. Okay, we're down to our last minute. Oh no, we're over time. Wait, we're over time? My clock is full of lies. All right, let's bring up Ryan. Woo!
Thank you.
Ryan.
Thank you. Let's give a massive round of applause to Dave here. Bring the energy back up. Amazing.